The 2024 NFL Draft has so many amazing wide receiver prospects. There is something for everyone in this class. You have size, you have speed, you have contested catch guys, and there is a receiver for every team in this wide receiver class. One of the guys who has been absolutely incredible this season is LSU wide receiver Malik Nabers, a guy who has put up some absolutely unreal numbers this year for the Tigers and is a finalist for the ncaaf. But what makes Nabers such an interesting prospect? That is what I will be doing in today's video. But hey guys, if you guys enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribe. Leave a comment and let me know which players you would like to see me do in the future, and we've already done a number of players already, so be sure to check out the playlist. But without further ado, let's get into it. In 2022, Nabers had a really good season for LSU. He had 72 receptions for 1,017 yards and 3 touchdowns. While his touchdown numbers weren't high, LSU ran the ball a lot in 2022, and he still had some really solid numbers. In 2023, however, Nabers has been absolutely unreal and taken his game to another level. He has 86 receptions for 1,545 yards and 14 touchdowns on the year, and is the favorite to win the award for the top wide receiver in the country. The biggest and the best trait in Nabers' game is his speed. He is one of the fastest wide receivers I have ever studied. As soon as the ball is snapped, he explodes off the line of scrimmage, and he is ridiculously fast. There's so many times where he just blows right by the cornerback and safety, and he is gone. He just has to run a simple vertical route, and it seems like he can get open just about every time. He will likely test in the low 4.4s and perhaps in the 4.3s, and his speed is absolutely ridiculous and is going to be the things that teams buy into the most. He is a threat as a deep ball wide receiver, but if you get Nabers the ball underneath or lower, he is unbelievable in the open field. He has great vision, and you pair that with his speed, Nabers is able to make some really big plays in the open field, and I think he has great potential in that spot. In terms of his size, Nabers is 6 foot, 200 pounds. He is not the biggest wide receiver in the world, but he also is not small either. I feel based on his size and on his play style, Nabers will most likely be a dynamic slot wide receiver at the next level. In 422 snaps this year with LSU, 226 of his snaps have taken place in the slot. I think that he is immediately going to enter the NFL and be one of the scariest slot wide receivers to match up with in the entire league. While he doesn't have an extensive route tree with LSU, the routes he does run, he runs extremely well. He breaks out of his routes quickly and with anticipation, and I think that is another thing that is very solid with him. Nabers does have some question marks around him. We mentioned his frame and that I don't see him as a boundary wide receiver, but the main reason I don't see him as a boundary guy is not because of his frame at all. It's due to a lack of physicality in his game. He is not a very physical wide receiver, and he's not a contested catch guy. His hands can be inconsistent, and he does struggle with focus drops from time to time, especially when he is covered, so those are areas I do worry about. He is mostly a finesse guy, and while there is a place in the league for that, I don't see him as a boundary weapon. Another area I am concerned about is his route tree. He doesn't run many routes whatsoever. He runs vertical deep routes and the occasional button hook or slant, but he does not have a large route tree at all. And as we saw with the Tennessee wide receivers last year, teams are looking for guys who can run a number of different routes, and Nabers just doesn't have that in his game due to the way LSU runs their offense. A lot of people see Nabers as wide receiver 2 in this class. I am not one of those people. I think his speed is absolutely incredible and it is elite. I think he's going to be a very unique weapon and is going to be great in the NFL. But I have him as my wide receiver number 4. This is a loaded wide receiver class, and I think a lack of routes and physicality, as well as inconsistent hands from time to time, I have him a bit lower than most people do. Now don't worry. He is still my number 15 player in the class. I think I still have him extremely high. I just don't have him in that top tier of wide receivers in terms of my top 3 in this draft. But I still think he's going to be an incredible player and picked very high. Nabers would work best in a spread offense. An offense where he can use his speed and run the deep routes that he's been running at LSU, and he can take the top off the defenses. An offense that allows him to get one-on-one matchups in the slot by spreading the wide receivers around. And I think he could be utilized in incredible ways if he was in a spread offense. My player comparison for Malik Nabers is Miami Dolphins wide receiver Jalen Waddle. Nabers is 2 inches taller and a tad bit heavier than Waddle is, but they are both super fast wide receivers who have the ability to take the top off the defense at any time. We often forget how good Jalen Waddle is because of Tyreek Hill, but Jalen Waddle is a dynamic weapon with really solid hands. I think they're both incredible finesse wide receivers. They're both dynamic weapons and can be electric in the open field, so Jalen Waddle is my comparison for Malik Nabers. While I am not as high on Nabers in terms of my wide receiver rankings, I still think he is an incredible wide receiver. He is going to be nearly impossible to defend against in the NFL because of his speed, and he is going to be such a fun player to watch, and he is going to be the exact type of wide receiver multiple teams are looking for. Ultimately, I believe Malik Nabers will be a top 20 pick in the 2024 NFL Draft.